This is The Hard Truth with Tony Shaffer on the America Out Loud Talk Radio Network, also on the America Out Loud Podcast Network. Check us out at Project Sentinel, projectsentinel.net, .com, mostly .com. Look for us there. We're good to go. We are on X at PRJ_Sentinel, SENTINEL. And we do all of the posts we can on what we do. And also our old shows are on the hardtruthwithtony.com. We are powered by Sig Sauer, Never Settle. I had a choice of what I carried in combat. I carried the best. I recommend you carry the best Sig Sauer. Let me see what I'm going to grab today. The old M18, just the old M18. I got the AXG frame on it. A great weapon. I carry this around the neighborhood here. Not that I have to, because, we're a Second Amendment friendly state. So, everybody's friendly to each other. It's amazing. So anyway, I highly recommend SIG. Never, ever settle. And we are also sponsored by Swiss America. Get a free copy of their publication, Secret War on Cash. It's a newsletter, 800-289-2646. 800-289-2646. Tell them Tony Shaffer sent you. And always remember, our theme music and bumper music is by our dear friend, Cherie Curry. Cherie, we love you. We love all the work you do. And obviously, she was here just recently on one of our shows, so she'll be back soon. Without further ado, the man who taught Ed McMahon everything he knows, Chris Cordani. Chris is here as the life coach of Ed McMahon. He never talked about that, but it's true. If Ed McMahon wouldn't have been Ed without Chris. And of course, my dear friend, Dr. Jerry Corsi, he's not a dental proctologist like Joe Biden, just saying. Dr. Biden is, so there's a distinction there to be had.
You're in for it now.
Let it never be said that he's a dental proctologist, but, so here we are. Obviously, my favorite book of his is The Truth About Energy, Global Warming, and Climate Change, since I've got a degree, and he backs up everything I know to be fact by his facts, which is convenient. Wow, think about that. Facts on facts. Who would have thought that up, Jerry? And of course, another book I love, which is the Truth About Neo-Marxism, Cultural Maoism, and Anarchy, which is what we're seeing today, right? It's gonna be the central topic of our show. So welcome, Jerry, to The Hard Truth.
Thanks, Tony. Great to be back with you. That's the Truth trilogy. The third one is going to be on transhumanism. It's going to be a transhumanism and this whole idea of perpetual life extension, artificial intelligence. And I suspect I'll have that one done in 2025.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the show. We're going to be going through I don't know how to describe the current political environment. It is like chaos. It's like Apocalypse Now meets Seinfeld, right? That's kind of the combination.
Well,
so
chaos is too good a way to. This is beyond chaos.
Yeah,
this is insanity, and I think a large part of it is actually satanic. I think we're into end days type phenomena with a lot of what we're seeing.
Well, I want to talk about that because I think the audience is going to ask that question if we don't. So let's start with we're halfway through the movie, and let's start with the scene of Joe Biden and Donald Trump on stage. And there was that Reagan moment back when Mondale was running against him. I won't hold your youthful enthusiasm against my age and wisdom, but that moment came for Trump when he said, "I don't understand what he said. I don't think he understands what he said." So let's start with that. Well, what did you make of the debate, Jerry? Just give us just a couple seconds on that.
The debate was probably the defining kind of clip. It was a debacle for Biden. I mean, he didn't look like he was there.
No.
And I almost think that the debate was set up by the Democratic operatives in order to get rid of him, because this is the only way to let the American people see what if it's Parkinson's or if it's some form of dementia, the senior dementia. I mean, I don't know what the medical diagnosis is going to be, but the problem is once you look at Biden and listen to him and see his cognitive functioning, you know that this guy does not belong to be president of the United States. He belongs in some kind of a home where he can get senior care. And if it is a form of Parkinson's or dementia, we better prepared for the fact that he isn't going to be there much of the time.
Right.
And
well, that's the thing.
Just a fact.
Yeah, no, and so we're in a pickle, and not the Kamala Harris type. Just saying. So we'll get past that, but I do want to cover a couple other things. I want to go through kind of chronology, kind of the history, the recent history. So the next day after that, after the debate, uh, Donald Trump, Donald J. Trump was in Virginia with Governor Youngkin. I was there. I met with I talked to him. I'll be posting some more pictures from that meeting with him. I was there in the Raleigh at the front row, like Bob Euchre, right in the front row. It was great. While he was doing this in Chesapeake, Virginia, Jerry, over an hour and a half, almost an hour and 45 minutes, 90-degree heat in a suit, Donald Trump was talking. He was speaking with clarity, with alacrity, with details, going through and kind of retelling the story with additional details of what happened. At the same time he was doing that, Joe Biden was over in Raleigh in a small, looked like an auditorium, and talked for 10 minutes and barely was cohesive.
Well, I mean, the difference is dramatic, and
yeah.
And Trump actually looked young at the debate by comparison.
He did.
He looked like he was vigorous, in charge of his faculties, knew what he was doing. I thought he was actually much more gracious than he had to be. I mean, he could have laid into Biden. He was acting as if, we don't want to deal with not only senior dementia, but senior abuse. So he kind of backed off and just kind of looked startled a little bit during the debate. I thought Donald Trump was amazed at Joe Biden's cognitive descent, and he just let it be apparent. It was the right thing to do. I mean, just that, it's an old Lyndon Johnson saying, and said, don't tell somebody that the guy is a bank robber. Let them see him robbing a bank. Well,
yeah,
you didn't have to say that Joe Biden was suffering cognitive decline. You saw it. It was obvious.
Yeah. Well, let me ask that question. Do you think Joe Biden knew they were doing the split screen between questions? Because that was horrifically revealing. I mean, man, oh man, that slack jaw breathing through the mouth thing. I mean, whew.
Well, he's just not there. I mean, I'm sure in his mind he's struggling to figure out what happened. It looked to me like there was a point in the debate where he's almost falling asleep.
Yeah.
And this is a frightening stage for someone to be at. And when you don't know what's going on, you lose it. You try to figure out what's going on. I mean, one of the times he started a sentence, he couldn't figure out what the rest of the sentence was going to be. And he said something about we're really killing Medicare. He came out with a non sequitur.
He beat Medicare.
We beat Medicare.
He beat Medicare. That's right.
We beat Medicare. Yeah, and
Trump pounced on that.
The way Trump said, "You sure did beat Medicare."
That's right.
That was one that Trump did take advantage of. But if you watch that whole sequence, you realize the extent to which the government, the White House, has been lying. I'm sure this started in 2020. I was seeing signs of it in 2020. I've actually saw signs of it.
I did editorials on this as part of the Trump 2020 advisory board, Jerry. I did editorials on this.
I saw it coming years ago. I mean, 20 years ago, following Joe Biden and seeing him give speeches. I wondered if he wasn't having mental problems at that time.
Yeah.
Because his thought processes, this doesn't come on you in 20 seconds.
No.
This is a progressive process. And from here, the curve of the deceleration, of the degeneration only gets steeper. It's going to go faster now.
So, yeah, and I'm going to cover that because I want to go through the bigger picture here in a second. The next thing I want to hit is the 4th of July. So on the 4th of July, there was a White House event that Joe Biden was wandering around like a Roomba, kind of bouncing into things and saying things randomly. But one of the things he said, and Jerry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to anyway. When Joe Biden was up on stage and Kamala Harris introduced him, and she introduced the most amazing president in the universe, Joe Biden. They raised their hand and he said, "Ho ho ho." So my question was he referring to Santa Claus or to Kamala Harris when he said "ho ho ho"?
Well,
I'm just wondering.
Yeah, well, a good question. I mean, I think it had to be. He probably just thought it was Christmas time, and this was the Christmas tree, and this was. I mean, who knows what he thought?
Before that, Kamala Harris referred to him or called him the extraordinary president. You think that was a bit thick as well?
Extraordinary president. Well, yeah. I mean, this has gotten to be a comedy routine, but it's not funny.
Yeah.
And it's actually fairly sad to see anyone decline like this, let alone somebody whom they're trying to prop up as the president of the United States.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's part of what I wanted to highlight.
Thank you.
Well, this is, to me, they're following the playbook you outlined in here. Basically,
Yes.
they're accusing others of what they're doing. Oh, have you seen Donald Trump? Did you ask Donald Trump the same questions? Did he? It's like everything that they're doing right now, they're trying to push off on someone else. And so, yeah,
they can only destroy. They can only destroy. And that's my website. We covered it today, and we've been covering it for weeks, talking about how this whole neo-Marxism, which is the woke critical theory, critical gender theory, etc., has predominated the administration. Certainly the military-industrial complex, and we've got admirals wearing dresses. I mean, it's shocking to me.
Trust me, I deal with this every day, and some of the folks in the military. But Jerry, that's my point. So let's dive into this, because at what point, you mentioned the media covering for Biden, and this isn't a small thing. The media has known this. I mean, we've known this, and somehow we were called conspiracy theorists because we knew, and we were saying, no, this guy's compromised. Oh, he's fine. You're just all left wing. It's like, no, we're just telling you. And so this is but another example where you were right, we were right. We've been saying this, and yet somehow there's not going to be a single apology. You got the likes of Joe Brzezinski, or Scarborough. I always forget his name. By the way, Jerry, did you know that Mika Brzezinski is on Joe, on Morning Joe? I didn't know that until recently. I mean,
oh, sure.
Just, not that I'm trying to turn this into a PG-13 or R-rated, but it's true. It's a statement of fact, right, Chris? It's a statement of fact, right?
Yes. Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much, it's true. They're married, for God's sake. You wouldn't.
No, I'm saying pretty much she's on the show. What I'm saying is it's more Joe. I mean, that's the way it is. It's still Joe's loud mouth over Mika. Sometimes is she doesn't get as much
Jerry
in there as Joe does.
So,
I guess that's where I'm going here.
So okay, well, I'll give you. So Jerry, we were talking earlier today. We thought that we had a great idea for a sitcom: Two Joes in a Bucket. Wouldn't that be a great show?
That's a good one.
It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. No, I mean, and Kamala Harris also looked like she was freezing aboard the helicopter the other day. They had the video of her. I mean, go back to Hillary Clinton in the 2016 campaign when she had neurological problems, and she was wearing glasses that were for people who were having, strokes or fits of different kinds. And she actually fainted. It was on camera. You could see the Secret Service trying to load her into her limousine. They took her to the hospital.
Yeah.
And the Podesta emails came out. They were talking about Hillary's obvious neurological problems, which, again, they all hid.
Right.
Now, I think these people get to be so evil over time, and they get to be so rotted from the inside that it manifests itself. But the point is, I cannot imagine the Democrats are a complete quandary what to do.
Yeah.
They've got, if they invoke the 25th Amendment, they've got Kamala. And how do you get rid of Kamala? She's got to be the candidate. She's not going to step down from being the candidate. I'm sure they can offer her huge amounts of money to step down. Say they'll ruin her if she doesn't do it. And then they can, if they want to put in Michelle, they can do it by acclamation at the convention. But this whole changing of a candidate this late into a presidential election cannot be seen as positive.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go through some options here. That's the next thing I want to do. The next thing I want to go through briefly, Jerry, because I'm going to get to that, and we're going to have a great discussion probably in part 2 of the show. But let me ask you this question. So you just alluded to the fact that the media has been a co-conspirator in hiding this. Karine Jean-Luc Picard, what's her name? What's her name, Chris? I always get it wrong.
Well, Karine Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Pierre, not Jean-Luc. Because she looks a lot like Jean-Luc Picard, except without, with the hair mess. I digress. So
Jean-Luc Picard
anyway,
and Stacey Abrams. There we go.
Yes, engaged, number one. Anyway, so back to her lying. And it was notable because just now, right before we went to tape, a Washington Times article came out saying that a Parkinson's disease expert from Walter Reed visited the White House 10 times over the past year. Is that not significant or what, Jerry?
Well, it's got to be. I mean, Parkinson's is a reasonable diagnosis of what the symptoms are. I mean, this is Parkinson's is pretty good analysis.
Yeah.
It may not be senior dementia precisely, but it's going to result in the same thing.
Right. Same outcome.
Same outcome. And it's just got a few other symptoms of the way he looks or moves or acts confused. The physical movements reflect Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And he'll soon be unable to function without massive assistance because he'll lose the ability to do daily functions, and he'll lose the ability to actually perform in any way except assisted living.
Well, I want to go through the options because this would have happened inevitably no matter if it came public now or not. I mean, the decline is inevitable. The question becomes, how would they have dealt with it? But I one other thing I want to hit, and I'm going to say is there, and I'm not joking now. This next thing I'm going to say is very serious, and the audience needs to pay attention. When, Jerry, can we consider the Democrats and the media that support them domestic enemies? Because at this point, I'm looking at this as a perspective, and you know me personally, we're friends. I'm looking at this as a situation where I took an oath of office. That oath does not expire. I'm an officer, retired at this point, but still an officer of the U.S. Army. And we took an oath to defend the Republic against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I'm going to say this, and I think it's clear. I think at this point, the Democrats and the Marxist perspective and the media, they have shown themselves to be domestic enemies, because the biggest issue for me at this point is that Joe Biden is being seen by our adversaries as weak and feckless, which could result in catastrophic results on the international stage. What do you say about that?
Well, I think we've seen it since the JFK assassination, and my book on the killing of John F. Kennedy, and the final analysis, shot twice from the front. We've had the deep state in control for a long time in this country. And it didn't just start with Jack Kennedy's assassination, although that's when the CIA decided to just come out and do it, even in the open, and lie about it and get away with it.
Yeah.
The enemies of the United States are there. I mean, I think also I'm comparing this with Archbishop Vigano, who was excommunicated by Pope Francis last week.
For being a Christian, yeah, imagine that.
Vigano's answer was that the Pope is the one who's committing the heresy. He's bringing the LGBT into the church through the process of these bishops' synods, these meetings bishops are holding with marginalized minorities so they can find their voice in the Catholic Church. LGBT, welcome here. And so the schism, the heresy, is on Francis, which means that he's not a legitimate pope. And I think you've got the same situation where domestic enemies, both the Biden and mainstream media, are now in the categories they're not legitimately fulfilling their oaths of office. They're not legitimately defending the United States. They're perpetrating frauds in order to decrease the United States' importance in the world, our economic significance, our ability to be a strong nation militarily. The Biden years, after the Obama years, Obama's doing a fundamental change to America. That fundamental change to America is fundamentally to destroy America.
Right.
And that's happening.
Right.
These people don't believe in the Constitution. At the top of the CIA, top of the military. I mean, you had, Milley and the others saying to Donald Trump that even if he invoked the Insurrection Act, while Antifa and Black Lives Matter were destroying Washington, D.C. and other cities, they thought these people had a right to protest and they were not going to let the military be involved. Well, the law is not written, so they have a choice. If Donald Trump invoked, the Military Act and said the military are going in here domestically, it was Milley's responsibility to salute and do it.
Oh, of course. So that's my point. Is at this point, it's very clear that the serial, going back, and a lot of people agree with you, Jerry. My close friends all agree with you that the real downward spiral of the country started with the assassination of JFK, who notably would be a Republican at this point, politically, right? I mean, with his leanings, he'd be considered a Republican.
He wouldn't be allowed in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Yeah, be considered a right winger, yes.
I mean, he had tax cuts. He was going for nuclear test ban treaties. He was trying to make an accommodation with Russia. The Democrats were always in love with Russia from 1917 on, as long as it was communist.
Yeah.
As soon as the Berlin Wall came down and Russia renounced communism, the Democrats decided they had to destroy Russia.
Yeah.
And so now we have Russia, Russia, Russia. And as far as I can see, when Orban visited with Putin this past weekend and talked about that it looks like NATO's going on a war footing with Russia.
Right.
And certainly if Macron and if this new
Macron is an idiot. I mean, that guy.
he wants to put French
Oh,
troops
my
in
God.
French troops in to fight with the Ukrainians against the Russians. I mean, first of all, the only thing I like about the French
That's
troops
not not Macron. That's Orban. That's Viktor
that's
Orban.
Orban.
Orban is saying that this should never
I
happen.
want to talk about Orban in a second here. I admire what he's doing. So just saying.
But if Macron did send the French troops in, the best thing they might do is surrender. We could end this war.
Well, I always talk about the fact that the French are horse-eating surrender monkeys. So absolutely, I mean, that's the best you can expect. And as long as they got plenty of horse to eat and weapons to drop, they're good to go, right?
What
right,
if they could just get in
snails? They like the snails too. So yes,
yeah, they like anything like that. They're but the point is, we're at a tipping point here where the Ukraine war now, especially with this Labour vote in the UK, which is impossible to believe. The numbers of seats, they got 36% of the votes, and they've got like 400 seats in Parliament. I mean, they control Parliament,
right?
And,
I want to talk about it a little bit. So you went down that path, and let me hit that real quick because I think people need to understand kind of the context, which I did open the door when I talked about foreign and domestic enemies. So Biden, I think, is compromised to the Europeans, especially Ukraine, because he was paid off. He and Hunter, as a matter of fact, this upcoming trial, Jerry, the Hunter Biden trial, even though they can't go after the important years of 14 and 15, they're still going to use them in evidence against Hunter. And I think that could be very detrimental to Joe. Do you think the Democrats would hold off until the trial to go after Joe to get him out, or are they going to do it before?
They've got to do it before. I mean, they've got to come up with a plan right now. And I don't know what the plan is, but they don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Because the country's going to be seeing, if Jill Biden continues to want to get Biden out front so he can demonstrate to the people he has some cognitive facility left, and she's trying to defend him and prop up her power position in the White House, the more she does that, the more desperate the situation is going to get.
Yeah.
And you've got now Congress, congressmen and women, the Democratic Party, who realize they're going to lose their seats. And so they're starting to say, we've got to stop the bleeding now.
Oh, yeah, no, they're going to lose the Senate easily at this rate.
Yeah.
It's like
downvotes are going to be really rough for some of these, especially the more contested areas, the ones that we saw flip in 2018. They're going to be they're pretty much in danger right now.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the voting, the stealing of the vote this time is going to get more difficult, especially in the magnitude to which the vote's going to have to be stolen. Of course, the Democrats could try to run Michelle and say that she's very popular.
Yeah, I want to talk about options in the second part of the show, Jerry. We need to go down all those rabbit holes. Yeah, I want to go through all of that because what's coming next, I think, is owed the next half of the show. So just a note to Jill. I think we're too hard on Jill Biden. I mean, someone who loves bodegas and breakfast tacos can't be all that, right? I mean, come on. She
wants a breakfast taco stand at every corner.
Yeah,
come on, man.
Together with ice cream stands. Got to have ice cream stands, and they have to be served by little girls with fresh hair you can smell.
That is correct.
Youth. There we go.
So, one last question before we go, because we got to take a break here in a second. But that's it. So, in the headlines, no joke. As Joe Biden would say, no joke. The first felon, Hunter Biden, is back in the White House. He is. He's, there's been some credible articles saying that he's in there advising now. You've got Doctor of Dental Proctology, Jill Biden, advising both rheumatically and depends-wise. So my question to you, Jerry, does that mean Ashley Biden's back in the White House giving Joe showers to get him to prep up? I'm asking because I don't know these things, right?
Well, it's probably likely. I mean, the whole family's going to be in there trying to save themselves because they're worried as soon as they get out of the White House in disgrace, what's going to happen, especially if Trump comes in. The corruption is enormous.
Yeah.
And it's obvious to the American people. And I think the real detriment is that the economy, that Bidenomics has failed. People are suffering from inflation. The jobs aren't being created.
No,
We're
no,
on the verge of a massive global crash.
Yeah.
And with Europe going left again, and they'll go to the Green New Deal. They'll impose all these net zero requirements, and Europe is going to go bankrupt.
Well, no, they're going feudal mercantilism, the deindustrialization of Germany. Jerry, we had to come back and just do a whole show on that, right? I mean, we could literally do a breakdown. As a matter of fact, why don't we plan on that?
That's a good
next
idea.
Month to do a kind of the what's up with Europe thing, because I think we could spend. And by the way, we'll have more things develop with Orban then.
What's the deal with Europe? There we go.
What's the deal with that could be the title, So in the meantime, we're going to come back and talk about two Joes in a bucket. And options of the Democrat Party going forward. So stand by. We'll be right back. This is The Hard Truth of Tony Shaffer, Part 2, still on the America Out Loud Talk Radio Network, on the America Out Loud Talk Podcast Network too. Check us out, Project Sentinel, projectsentinel.com. Just go there. Don't go to .net. You can go there, but go to .com. And look at everything we're doing. We're doing a lot. We do a lot of stuff that is it's good, cool, and you should be part of it. Look for us on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call that, the Twitterverse. We are Project Sentinel at PRJ_Sentinel, SENTINEL. So, we're always doing cool stuff, and you guys can check me out there too. And then all of our past shows are on thehardtruthwithtony.com. We're sponsored by 6 Hour Never Settle. I had a choice of what I carried in combat. I carried the M11. Wonderful weapon. I would do it again in the heartbeat. It was the best. I recommend you carry the best. The very best is 6 Hour Never Settle. Also, Swiss America. Check out Swiss America. One of the things you can do for yourself is get some hard currency. Have something hard that will sustain any potential crash of the economy and fiat currency. Check them out for their Walking Liberty $50 offer. It's a special. You should go there. Check it out. 800-289-2646, or go online. Check out what they're doing. The Swiss America. You can't go wrong by checking out Swiss America. But again, Swiss America, call for information. 800-289-2646. Tell them Tony Shaffer sent you. So we're back with our good friend, Jerry Corsi. Dr. Corsi will continue to discuss some of the issues. But Chris, I think you had some comments on the European elections you wanted to lead off with. So go right ahead.
A couple of big ones. As you know, the French elections were pretty much dead set. You knew round two was going to be the leftists getting together and trying to keep Marine Le Pen out of office and her party out of a majority. This is the typical anti-Trump vote because Trump's mad. This one is called bad. Know that the big losses rioted this week because they won. Different story for a different day, but that's what they did. The UK is an interesting bird, though. The Labour Party gets 5 years to do what they want, but this was more of a referendum on the Conservative Party's garbage leadership. Which, by the way, are they any more indistinguishable from the Labour Party now than the Labour Party is? Are they indistinguishable? Are they the same? This is why Nigel Farage and his Labour Party came in a solid third and second place in many districts, gaining a few seats as well. Also, it puts Nigel Farage in office. He is going to get a microphone and a platform. This is big. And 5 years from now, the Reform Party is going to be the new Conservative Party, if you will, with real conservatives. That's dynamic one. I want to get your thoughts on that. Dynamic two is the Labour Party knows it as 5 years before the Reform Party gets its footing and takes them down, because they're going to put the same amount of garbage as the Conservatives did over the years. And push as much legislation through as possible because they know they're out in a couple of years. Thoughts? That's a lot. That's a mouthful.
That's a lot, Jerry. I don't know if you caught all that. So it's more your job than mine. So.
Look, the entire what's happening in Europe is, I think, a combination of voter fraud as well. The Labour Party got 36% of the vote, and they got over 400. They have so many seats now. This is the biggest majority of either party of any party since 1945 in Great Britain. And that's just impossible to me with 35% of the vote. Nigel Farage won't talk about a whole set of issues that he ought to be talking about. I even suspected that he's been compromised with money. Sunak is worth $800 million when he left as the conservative prime minister. Look, if Europe is going to be moving in a climate change and net zero and all the other leftist ideas, the first day this new prime minister canceled any deportation of illegals, Great Britain is going to just descend into chaos. And the voter fraud, I think, is there. I think this is a lock, changing of votes. We're finding algorithms in the New York State database, the New York elections voter registration database. We're finding algorithms in about 13 state electoral boards of election databases. This is going to be a major theme over the next month. And we're going to be calling for no elections until these state board election voter registration rolls are checked for algorithms, which is an obvious sign of fraud. France, same thing. Le Pen does well in the first round of voting, second round of voting. They make sure the socialists and communists win. That's a setup. And again, I'm confident that if we could find out, there would be election fraud behind it. And when you see the rallies and the celebrations of the left, you see Palestinian flags, you see communist flags, you don't see any French flags. Now, the whole thing is Europe is descending into this, gender dystopia insanity. And it's going to be economically destructive, and it's going to be destructive. Putin's got to be laughing, but if Macron gets involved now in Ukraine directly, we start sending longer range weapons. We have U.S. troops going in and manning those weapons. Same from Great Britain. We'll have nuclear war before the end of the year. And I think these demons are willing to do it because they're depopulationists.
Right. Well, let's break it down a little bit, because obviously let's talk about the algorithms in a second. I want to get back to that. But one of the notable features is that the left, both U.S. and European left, are bent on World War III. And I think they count, and I think I'm going to say this, I'm going to get in trouble for it, and I know, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I think Putin's been restrained. I think Putin has shown great restraint compared to what you would think he would do, based on the fact that they've antagonized him, they've broken agreements. The whole thing with the agreements that were made in the Minsk agreement was broken. The issues regarding Istanbul, they almost had something with Istanbul. As a matter of fact, I think, Jerry, you can agree with or disagree with me or not, but I think the Istanbul near agreement is a good place to start negotiating. I think that's what Orban proposed is Istanbul plus is something I should look at. But I digress. That's another. We could go down that and talk about the rest of the show, but I don't want to. We get focused on this. So I think they cheat in Europe and here both. So let's talk about this algorithm thing you just brought up regarding cheating here in New York. So let's go through that a little bit more detail.
Well, what we're finding is, first of all, you come into register to vote, and you should get a voter number, voter ID that's consecutive to when you registered. And what the first effort of these algorithms is to scramble the state ID numbers so you can't recognize when they registered. That doesn't match the registrations. And so therefore it permits the opportunity through a very complicated National Security Agency quality cryptographic code. In other words, they've written a code into this voter registration database in New York State and other states that permit them to hide fake records, to pull them out and vote them when they want to, and to have them certify, because they can get that voter requesting a mail-in ballot. That mail-in ballot is printed with that voter's number on it and run through the machine, certifiable. It's a slick system. It's entirely illegal. And in New York, 4 million registrants on the voter rolls in the State Board of Elections, there's probably 2 million fake records that don't belong there. And again, many of them are intentionally cloned so that they can be hidden and voted. You know, some people have 35 different registrations. They get 35 different mail-in ballots. And if they're needed to vote and they're in reserve, we need 30, you know, we've got to stop the counting. We need 30,000 mail-in ballots in order to win. They're printed overnight and run through the machine with numbers that are in the New York State voter registration at the Board of Elections.
Oh yeah, look, they did the same thing in Pennsylvania. I investigated that back in 2020. We've talked about that, but yeah, they prepare the artifacts to go with legitimate numbers every time, just so that there cannot be, even an audit would not detect this fraud. So I get it.
But if we find it, the appeal we're going to take, and the approach I want to take now is not to challenge that we're saying XYZ election was stolen, because that's a trap, because that election got certified. And so now if we're challenging a certifiable election, you know, we're essentially insurrectionists.
Right.
I'm saying if these algorithms are there and we want to file suits on behalf of candidates and voters saying we don't want to vote until we know that there's no algorithms written into the Ohio Board of Election voter registration file. And in fact, there are algorithms written into it. Okay. Or the New Jersey, where there are algorithms written into the voter database, and say, we're not saying this is inherently evidence of election fraud to alter the state election board data, because it should just be a straight line. You come in at, you know, day one is registered one, you get state ID, voter number 1. You don't get 22,300,010.
Right.
Okay. And so therefore putting a scheme, which is a cryptographic scheme, on top of a voter base in a state board of election is an inside job that's hidden. It's nefarious. It's meant to be, it takes cryptographers to break it. And when you see the number code, you can show exactly how the numbers are assigned. And if this is the case, we need to stop elections in these states until we can find out who did it and get these voter rolls so that they are legitimate. That's the whole point. We're not saying we say we have a 14th Amendment right to an equal vote. And if the state has altered the database with algorithms, we have in prima facie evidence of wrongdoing, and we want that cleaned up before there's a general election.
So that's one of the things that was notable that you'd get ahead of this time, Jerry, by doing this is a lot of courts that were asked to review the 2020 election said, you don't have standing because you should have said something before the election.
That's right.
And so, okay, here we're saying something right now.
Before
we're
the
laying
election.
out. Yeah, because I was disappointed as I tracked that in 2020, especially in Pennsylvania. It's like, yeah, you should have said something before. It's like, what? It's like, what?
Well, I mean, so we have a candidate. Let's find a candidate who's running for Congress or Senate or governor or whatever in Ohio. We have lawyers in Ohio who are working on it. We can prove that there's algorithms in the Ohio voter database at the Board of Election. Let's blow the whistle and say we don't want an election to be held until this is investigated and cleaned up. Now, you're not accusing anyone of having done anything nefarious. To say we want an investigation. You know, this is inherently prima facie evidence of malfeasance.
Right.
And so we want it investigated. Now, that's a reasonable claim. And as a voter or a candidate, I think you got much better status in terms of standing, challenging in advance before the voting starts. And that way you can go in and examine how it's all set up. How does the algorithm, can it be used to get fraudulent votes voted in mail-in ballots? Are the computers set up to receive that as a legitimate vote? How deep are the algorithms written into the computers if they're there? And so therefore, just raising the question should indicate to the American people that it may be every Board of Election database in the country at every single state, all 50, may be corrupt.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, we shouldn't have an election until that's fixed.
Well, I agree. And that's where we want to go through, and we'll come back and have another show on just election integrity, I'm sure, before we get to November. But first, we want to go through and talk about what the Democrats are going to do now. By the way, Breaking news, Jerry. This just in. Breaking news. I'm reading this off the hot wire. Whoopi Goldberg says she does not care if Biden pooped his pants or can't put the sentence together. "Quote unquote, I have poopy days all the time." There you go. There's the endorsement for Joe. Continuing. Wow, what a glowing endorsement for Joe Biden. Right here. Breaking, people. This is happening as we're speaking. This is like historic stuff on here as we're taping.
I can't. I mean, it's unbelievable. We've gotten this low, you know, and if we have a government that turns a blind eye to pedophilia, keeps the border wide open so anybody can come across, including terrorists, is not doing anything to secure our cities from robbing mobs. In fact, change the laws so that it's okay to rob up to a certain amount.
Yeah, $950, Jerry. You're good to go. If you go out to San Francisco, we could go rob with. I guess it includes us too. We can just go out and rob stuff. Who cares? No law.
Well, as long as it's under a certain amount of money, I think
$950, Chris. Right. Know the number. It's important. Otherwise, you may become like arrested.
I think it's less in New York, but still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this is insanity, and the Democrats are stuck with the plan they had, which is a very bad plan, to put in Biden so Obama could have a third term and he could be controlled. I say the next candidate the Democrats will want is a weekend with Bernie. It'll be someone who's a dead person, and they'll have AI give the speeches, making that person look alive whenever the deep state wants to make a statement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, okay. We're on the verge of 1984. I swear to God, people don't understand how close we are. I mean, it's frightening.
At the last minute, if they want to say, well, by acclamation, Joe Biden comes and makes a speech and says, for the good of the nation, I can't be president anymore. I'll stay president until January, but I'm not going to be running again. And so then the Democratic convention is up and everything's tossed up, and they put in Michelle and Newsom as their ticket, thinking we can really win with this ticket. They still have the detriment of looking like they're in disarray and being in disarray.
Well, they are in disarray.
They are in disarray.
This is not, them being dramatic, which they like to be. They love to be emotional and dramatic. This is like them being emotional and dramatic, but really meaning it.
Well, the Democrats have a history of this. In 1972, McGovern was the candidate, and he picked Thomas Eagleton to be his vice presidential candidate, very prominent. And Thomas Eagleton had shock therapy. Well, that came out. And so the Democrats had to ditch Eagleton, and they put in Sergeant Shriver.
Oh, my God.
Another candidate. So it was McGovern and Sergeant Shriver. They won only Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Now, they probably would. If McGovern and Eagleton had run, they might have won Massachusetts and California. But the point is, they didn't. That was about it.
Yeah.
But the point is, the disarray meant that they had to stop and hold another convention. They had to, get some way to have Eagleton bow out and to have Sergeant Shriver be the nominee, because these parties have all kinds of rules, and the people in charge of the rules committees at these conventions might not easily like the fact that Biden's just gone. They may want to hold on to Biden.
Well, I know that. I said I want to hit that real quick because we have to move on to Tony's takes in a second. But let me hit that real quick because they've come up, this Georgetown professor and some donors come up with the equivalent of speed dating for a candidate for president, with Taylor Swift and Oprah being kind of the star chamber. Well, I guess it's not star chamber because it's public, but still it's going to be kind of like rammed through. What kind of morons comes up with this stuff, Jerry? Seriously. I mean, this is like science fiction. This is like Lost World.
Maybe they could do Dancing with the President-elect and vote on who dances the best.
Well, that's a good idea. I think Kamala and who would not want to watch Gavin Newsom and all the way? And by the way, I'm just going to say this because I said it earlier.
And Kamala.
Well, look, I think the Dems' best future, and I'll leave it. We'll get on to the other things here, but their best future, Jerry, is to include in their speed dating for a candidate, Stormy Daniels and nude debates. Who wouldn't want to see nude debates? Come on, you could do that as a pay-per-view, right? Right, Chris?
Well, I can tell you, you can have like you said, Fetterman and Pelosi.
The mystery candidate. The mystery candidate. Somebody comes in a mask.
They could bring in the real symbol of the Democrat Party, John Wayne Bobbitt.
That's right.
That's right.
How,
So no, I think well, size
How
does
many-
matter, and those Democrat guys, just saying, I don't think they'd be measuring up. If
how
they
many
measure
votes
up.
would how many votes would Lenin get as an AI?
We probably get quite a few.
Yeah, we could run Lenin
Wait,
as an
John
AI.
or Vladimir? It's
Vladimir.
John or Vladimir? There we go. I think John would beat Vladimir anyway because he can.
That's like
Well,
let's have an AI be president.
I was saying that they ought to bring back Rock Hudson if they need a stud, so to speak, AI. I mean, you know, they need a symbol. Or Liberace. Who doesn't love Liberace, right? And by the way, on that note, who didn't know back in the day that Liberace wasn't
Well,
gay?
I
Come
mean,
on, for God's sake, people.
I mean,
You know, it's like
No,
everybody knew he was gay, and nobody cared. Nobody cared, right?
Well,
you know
I
what?
mean, nobody.
That wasn't so bad. But some people tried to convince me that Charles Nelson Riley was gay, and I called BS on that one. He got all the babes.
yeah, look, you know, I think the possibilities here are endless of what we could do. You know, we could have AI candidates. We could have animals. Animals are supposed to have rights, aren't they? Don't they have rights? Let the animals.
My cat does. Boy, you
We-
just ask him.
not
He'll get on
cows.
you if you don't feed
We
it.
had, we had
you know.
Scooby Doo. Why can't we have a dog be president?
That's right.
Well, not cows. The liberals
Casey
don't like
Kasem.
cows. Remember?
Casey Kasem could be president. Yeah.
A dog and a cat be president and vice president. Let's do it.
Dog and cats living together. That's right. All right. So
You could have something similar. Again, that whole the idea there are some projections that put Biden and Trump neck and neck at 270 to 270 electoral votes. You could have a dog and a cat technically with the House selecting Donald Trump as president and the Senate selecting Kamala Harris as vice president. So it would be akin to that. If you
yeah,
like.
well, I don't know. I think we should just talk to Willie Brown about Kamala Harris's skills as a debater. Just saying.
I'm sure you have quite a lot to
Just
say.
saying. Just
I
saying.
think I think he'll say a mouthful. Anyway, but
She
again,
would say a
different
mouthful,
story.
not him. Anyway, but well, we
Well, it all
digress.
depends.
So, Jerry, we're going to have you back. There's so much to
Great.
talk about. I appreciate you being here. It's been a
Oh, my
great show. But
pleasure.
we got 5 minutes left, and Chris has something he wants to talk to me about. What do you want?
Well,
to talk
we do have Tony's takes, and that's what we have
Oh.
at the end of every show. And
That's
Jerry,
right.
we'll make it Tony and Jerry's takes. It is powered by Sig Sauer. Never settle. If
Never
you
settle.
settle, then you get Kamala Harris as
That's right.
a candidate. That's what happens when you
That's
settle.
what happens.
So now you know what? I want to get your take on this. We talked a little about the parallels, but here you go. It was leaked that a staff, that the Joe Biden staff provides him with instructions on how to enter and exit a room
Yes.
with large print and pictures ahead of each event. What's your take on this? This is bad when it comes. I know we joke about his cognitive acumen, his speaking, and his policies terrible. But I mean, having to have a pictures put in front of him to instruct him how to walk off stage, that's rather telling now, isn't it?
Well, see, it's better than having a see and tell where you have to actually pull that thing and the thing goes around and points at something. So it's a less intrusive thing than
Nick
having him
Disney.
pull that. And it's like, it's pointing at I don't know, the New York Times reporter, and he has to look down and like, so it's less intrusive. But on that note, it's a good thing that they're letting him do that, because in an emergency, that stuff is made of toilet paper, so he can put it down his pants and kind of shield himself from more leakage. Just saying.
I think they should just have little girls dressed in little skirts with ice cream cones, and he'll follow them anywhere. They
That's
don't
true.
need these. They don't need these pictures. These pictures will just confuse him. He'll think he's in a house of mirrors. He'll be so confused he won't know. Just get the little girls with ice cream cones, and he'll follow them around.
That's right. That's right.
That sounds about right. The worst was this party.
Butternut, right? Right. Butternut. Ice cream?
Butternut.
Butternut.
Butterbean, butternut. Here's a quick one for both of you, and this is this could be rather serious.
Okay.
Artificial intelligence is a company
Yes.
called 11 Labs. It's creating AI-generated voices of deceased actors like Burt Reynolds, Judy Garland, and James Dean to read audiobooks.
Yeah.
I want to know your take on a couple of things. Do we really need this because we have voiceovers in real life? And also, how dangerous can this be if it gets into the wrong hands?
Well, I don't know. Sid Caesar, when they bring Sid Caesar back, it's going to be all over, because that guy, his voice is like the master of the universe. So
Jimmy
I
Durant.
don't know.
Let's bring back Abraham Lincoln. And
Yeah.
People think it's the Civil War. We can go to war again.
So I mean,
North and South. We can put
yeah.
the monuments back.
Jerry, did you know? Did you know, Chris? Did you know that you can go to Gettysburg and you can buy a copy of the original audio of the Gettysburg Address? Did you know that?
I didn't. I did not know that.
You should know that because that's a freaking joke. There was no audio back when he delivered the address.
Oh, see that? Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I thought they would have somebody doing the reading in his voice, though. That's what I thought you meant. That's okay. All right, I'm with you.
No, original. I said original recording.
Oh, okay.
Original recording of the Gettysburg Address.
No, it's
Yeah,
just
this is what happens when I'm typing.
they have
original.
they have a meta device. They redo the Civil War, and you volunteer and get killed.
There you go. That's right. So anyway, we got to wrap up. It's been a great show, Jerry, Dr. Corsi. I always appreciate you putting up with our levity, but we do try to actually use our levity to make points, and I think we made some good points today. And Chris, thanks for being here and riding side saddle. Again, if it wasn't for you, Ed McMahon would not be the man he was. Just saying. So I think it's important for people to recognize that.
I had to help him sign those big checks because it's pretty hard.
Sign those big checks. All right, well, that's it for this week. We got to run. It's been a great episode of The Hard Truth. Tony Shaffer, Jerry, Chris, we'll all have you all back real soon. Thanks for being here. And keep reaching for the stars.
Look forward to being back. Thank you.